Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you guys here. Today is the 1st of November, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I got a good show for you guys today. We got a lot to talk about, and it might be a little bit of a long show because there's a lot happening right now. The markets out there right now, they're whistling past the graveyard. But let's get in there. Let's first we'll talk about the war for a little bit. Then we'll talk about the benefits of not being too muscular and not being in too good of shape in this crisis that's coming. And I've touched on this before, but I'm going to get into a little bit more depth about the reasons why. And let's get in there and let's take a look right now. Anti-war protests are erupting. And most of them are in support of Gaza. We see this lady in the courtroom here. She looks kind of frail. And she's being escorted out, I guess. We see other pictures here. They've painted their hands red. And this is quite large. These people, large groups of people are in support. And they live in Western countries. And they're in large support of Gaza. Now, what I was wondering about is they talked about there could be terrorist attacks and stuff. I think you're going to see this support diminish a lot if there's a lot of a terrorist attack starts to occur. Terrorist attacks, I should say, in the Western countries. I think you'll see this support diminish rather quickly. One of the things that we're going to take a look at here, too, is a huge destruction at a refugee camp. The IDF has confirmed that airstrikes hit Gaza's largest refugee camp. So we got that going on. It's a very, very dire situation over there in Gaza right now, on the Gaza Strip. Now, in Gaza, Israel is warning of a long war with Hamas. And Gaza is hit by another communications blackout, telecom firms say. Evidently, they're having a hard time over there trying to resource water in Gaza. Taking a look at more stuff going on. This was a different article I had. What was this?
This we're calling the kill cube, with one press.
Oh, something I had on there, and I didn't mean to have it on there, so I'll click it off. Yemen Houthis, they're now entering into the war. Now, I didn't expect this. Yemen is way off to the east of Israel, and I didn't really expect it. The Houthis. I was talking about Hamas, and I didn't see this coming, but they got missiles and stuff. Now Pakistan has started to side. They're starting to side now. Pakistan is starting to. They're moving in that direction. One of their senators is, and I guess the Senate in Pakistan is moving toward. They're moving in the direction toward, on the side of the Palestinians in this Hamas war. But Yemen has made the move already, pretty much, and they've pretty much more or less declared war. And they got a lot of missiles. It says Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Yemen's Houthi rebels for the first time Tuesday claimed missile and drone attacks targeting Israel, drawing the main sponsor, Iran, closer into this ongoing Israel-Hamas war on the Gaza Strip, further raising the risks of a regional conflict erupting. So we're right on the edge of this really growing big. Israel is basically surrounded. So on this side here, they got Pakistan and they got Yemen, and on the north, they're surrounded by Lebanon, which has got Hezbollah. Uh, which way will Egypt go? On the other side of them. Now, if we move out just to the waters offshore them, we got the United States settling in there with two big fleets. And I mean big fleets. I mean carrier aircraft groups. So this is setting up to be something really huge. What if it goes nuclear? You know? I mean, in the Middle East. Is there such a thing as a World War III, a nuclear World War III, without it? Well, let's take a look here at what they say about different types of nuclear warfare. They say there's two types. There's more than one type of nuclear warfare. An awful lot of people, they think of nuclear warfare and World War III, they think of, the first thing people think of when they hear that is what's called a strategic, where it's basically all out nuclear war and they use their strategic nuclear weapons. But that's not always the case. According to Wikipedia, there's two types of nuclear warfare. There's a limited nuclear war, and there's full-scale nuclear war. Those are type 1 and type 2. Just kind of like there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. There's type 1 and type 2. Neither one of them's any good. You don't want either one of them, and you don't want either one of these. But this first type is a limited nuclear war. It says, refers to the controlled use of nuclear weapons, whereby the implicit threat exists that a nation can escalate the use of nuclear weapons, for example, using a small number of nuclear weapons against strictly military targets. It could be escalated through increasing the number of weapons used, or escalated through the selection of different targets. Limited attacks are thought to be more credible response against attacks that do not justify all-out retaliation, such as an enemy's limited use of nuclear weapons. So there is such a thing as a limited nuclear war. And this is, I think, is what's more likely with a Middle Eastern war, is a limited nuclear war. Now, like I say, Pakistan is drifting toward support of Gaza. And, of course, the United States, they have nuclear weapons. And Israel has their Samson option. And moving over to Pakistan. And has Iran got nuclear weapons? And you see what I'm talking, I say probably yes, but I don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure, and they're not. I don't think they're going to tell. I heard they got enough fissionable material to make at least 6, and they could probably stretch that out to 8 or 10. You know, I mean, it's like if you're baking cakes, you know, and you only got a half a dozen eggs. You know, you say, well, I can only bake 3 cakes with a half a dozen eggs, and somehow you're able to stretch it out and make a 4th or even a 5th cake. Just saying, you know. So, this all points toward what I just read about here, a limited type of a nuclear warfare in the Middle East that could involve nuclear nations in the Middle East, but they're not the big nuclear. There's 2 big nuclear nations. That's Russia and the United States. Those are the 2 big ones. Then there's smaller nuclear nations, like North Korea is a nuclear nation, you know. Is Iran a nuclear nation? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, but I don't think we're going to have to wait an awful long time with what's erupting here. I'll tell you, honest to God. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you guys here is, and I wanted to get talking about, and I haven't got an awful lot of time to talk about this because I've already pulled into 10 minutes talking about the war. I want you to take a look at this. Let's see, let's get a good example. This guy right here, maybe, above my head. They call this shredded. You know, when you really... Let me get another picture here. The guy just behind my head on the right here. Right on my right ear. They call that shredded. When you have very limited amount of body fat and a lot of muscle mass. And this is what everybody in North America is striving to achieve. They all want to look like that, male and female. They all want to look shredded. But what are you doing to your body when you do that to your body and you become shredded? Well, you're limiting the amount of fat mass on your body, and you're probably going, a lot of them are going under 10% body fat to become looking like that. And they also increase their muscle mass. In other words, they grow muscles. Some of them even take steroids to grow their muscles. But analyze this body for a minute, right? Muscles use tremendous amounts of fuel being food. And this means if you're shredded like this guy behind my ear on the right, he can eat an awful lot of food in a day to support those muscles. Muscles require an awful lot of food. This is fine, and this is what people want in North America. That first they want to look great. Oh, you look great if you're shredded. Oh, everybody's impressed by your body. And you can eat a lot more food than an ordinary person can to support all that muscle. You have to eat an awful lot of food, and you don't gain weight because the muscle burns food like crazy. But at the same time, he doesn't have very much fat reserves on him. Hardly any, but it's all muscle. Now, what about the other side of this coin? Do you know what it takes for muscle to feed your body what it needs, opposed to fat? So in other words, take a look at this guy. And this is what Americans don't want to look like. It's like the guy behind my head. This is the exact opposite. And this is what nobody in America wants. In fact, they're absolutely obsessed. Obsessed to the point of unbelievably obsessed to not look like the people who carry a very little muscle on their body and a lot of fat, which is the exact opposite of what I was just showing you before. People say, "Oh, he looks gross," or they say things like that, especially behind people's back. They'll say things like that, and they are what do you call it? They are prejudiced against, even though they might not admit it. But like behind my head here now, these two men, one with his stomach sticking out, one with a flat stomach. People are prejudiced against the man on the left that has the stomach sticking out and saggy looking and got fat on his body. Prejudiced against it. But let's think for a second about what's the effects or the mechanics of the body when this. Well, fat requires almost nothing to feed it. Different than muscle. Muscle has to be fed with calories every day, and it consumes a tremendous amount of calories. Fat consumes very little calories to support fat. Virtually, compared to muscle, virtually nothing to support fat. And of course, because this person that has got less muscle and more fat, because they have less muscle, it requires much less calories to support the muscle mass because they don't have very much muscle. They got all fat. Suddenly there's a crisis situation where you now see, in the kind of society we have today where the food is plentiful, it's great to look like these guys behind my head. Oh, that's great. That's what everybody wants because they can eat more and there's lots of food available. It's great. And they have to support all that muscle. But the world might not stay like that. The world might become a world where you're not able to support all that muscle anymore because you're not able to get the food. So this guy hasn't got all that muscle to support. But he's got the fat. Now, this fat, in times gone past, fat was a beneficial thing. People looked at people that were fat and they say, oh, it was a sign of wealth and a sign of happiness and a sign of... That all changed. During a period of a model, there was a model called Twiggy, and that's when everything changed. It was about that period in time. Everybody started to go on this health kick where they were all going to... But what if we go into a crisis, a massive crisis? Which one of these people is going to make out the best? The guy behind my... And that's not what you think, because people think, hey, they think, okay, these guys are the guys that's going to survive through the apocalypse. But, you've never watched these survivor shows. I have, and I've studied it. I've studied the mechanics of it. I've watched the people, looked at them, and I've watched these survival shows. I've watched them for quite a few years, back to the original Survivor series, that they used to have. Who was it that... There was a guy there that anyway, they don't last. Guys that are ripped like this and have low muscle, have a lot of muscle and no fat, they don't last but a few days. And their body starts to actually consume their muscle for energy. And the muscle is so lean, it's got a little bit of protein in it that the body can use to support your system, but it's got very, very little food value for your body. Your body actually starts to consume itself. At first, it'll consume the little bit of fat, and these guys don't have hardly any fat to consume. So after a few days, just a few days, they've consumed all of their body fat, and the body actually starts to eat the muscle, which has very negative effects when the body starts to eat the muscle tissue in order to survive, in order to get calories. But you're taking a look at... And not only that, they get there so much faster because the muscle that they have on their body consumes all of their calories and fat so quick. Like I say, they have to keep a constant diet of food to support their muscle mass. Now look at the guy behind my head there. Totally different situation here. He's got very little muscle to support for the body to feed. Great. Thumbs up in a world shift event. Thumbs up. The second thing about it is he's got lots of fat there to convert into energy. So what ends up happening with a guy like behind my head in a crisis situation like that? Well, he loses weight. His body converts the fat into energy, and that's what it was meant to do. That's why we all have fat on us, and we don't have... This is your body's way of... This is a mechanic that evolved through in human history in the past, that is a survival mechanism for mankind. So what I'm saying, and I guess I've been a little bit long-winded explaining this to you guys, but all of us out there, an awful lot of us anyway, have got this thing where we don't want to have that extra few... Now see, behind my head again, this picture. We don't want to have those extra few pounds, and we obsess about a little bit of a roll we might have here, or a little bit of a lump we might have there, or a little bit extra weight under the arms or on the hips. We all obsess about it, but we shouldn't, because we're moving so close to this crisis now that this might save you. So what happens? You lose weight, then the crisis occurs, and that roll finally disappears, but it disappears slowly over a period of time. Let me tell you how powerful it is, okay? I got roughly 30 extra pounds of fat on me, above where I should be, my weight, extra 30 pounds. And most of us here in North America have between, I don't know, between 20, 10, 20. Some of us have 10 pounds extra, 20 pounds extra. Some of us have 50 pounds extra. Some of us have as much as 100 pounds extra. I don't consider that to be terribly unhealthy. Yes, I consider morbidly obese if you got 200 pounds extra or 300 pounds extra. Yeah, that's a problem. I'll be the first one to admit, yes, that's a problem when you get that much. Because what ends up happening when you get that much overweight, well, you're like 200 pounds overweight. What ends up happening is your heart has to push your blood through all of that fat. And so it has to increase the blood pressure, and it's not good. It's not good. It's hard on the system. Also, your lungs have to support all of that weight and oxygenate your body. And so, you ever seen a really, really morbidly obese person? They get up out of the chair, they walk across the living room, and they're breathing like, yeah, that's not good. I'll be the first one to admit it. But a few extra pounds, say you're carrying an extra 20. Now, me, I'm carrying 30. I'm going to tell you how potent that is. Each pound is 3,500 calories. Okay? So 10 pounds of extra weight that you're carrying, or for every 10 pounds of extra weight you're carrying, you've got stored away 35,000 calories for every 10 pounds. So what's that equal to? 35,000 calories. That's a whole pantry full of beans. But you're carrying it on you. So effectively, you've become a prepper, but you're carrying your preps on your body. We're moving into a crisis here, guys. And I've been preaching this for a while. Don't sit there and look at the little bit of extra fat that a lot of you have in my audience. I bet you there might not be one person in my whole audience that's actually morbidly obese. Maybe there is a couple. But I don't see it as big a problem moving into this crisis as the people that's ripped. Maybe there's one or two out there in my audience that's absolutely ripped. They're under 8% body fat index. And they're absolutely ripped. That, to me, that's going into this crisis is as big a problem for your survival as if you were morbidly obese. You should be thinking about being more normal. If you've only got like 8% body fat, what would be more normal is to have like 12% or something. I mean, just be a little bit less, because we're going into this crisis. And so a person that's got that lean, it can't pinch an inch anywhere on their body. Maybe it's about time that you put a little layer of subcutaneous fat there, just a little bit. Don't get carried away. You don't want you to get fat. Don't get fat. But maybe it might be a good idea to think about just a little bit of not going to the gym quite so much because there's a crisis coming. Maybe for a person like that, go out and get yourself a few Krispy Kreme donuts, because there's a crisis coming, and have that little layer of subcutaneous fat that might last you a month or two. And if you do have a little bit of fat on your body, that little pouch that you hate, or that little thing on your hip, or whatever that you've obsessed about for years, stop obsessing about it any longer. You're going to need it. And this is where I'm going with this. Anyway, I know I talked about this for quite a little bit. Anyway, let's move into the markets now and take a look what's going on. 22.75 for silver. And it's just like I say, they knock it down 21. Watch, they'll knock it down 21.75. And then I'll let it go back up 23.80 or whatever, 24.20 or whatever. They've been playing this game, and this is the same game they're playing with the dollar. The dollar, too, is now a derivative of gold. So see, what we got here is, this is the effect of derivatives. The silver price is controlled by silver derivatives, which is SLV, which is your paper short contracts on silver. But the dollar is the same thing. The dollar, just like those paper short contracts for silver, are a derivative of silver. The dollar is a derivative of gold. That's what it is. It's SLV of gold. Dollar is nothing more than a derivative of gold. That's all it's ever been. Except they snipped that, but it's still there. This is why they have to keep the gold price suppressed. So they're running all these games. And it's all going to blow up in their face at a certain point in time. And like I say, these markets right now are whistling past the graveyard. We got all this stuff going on, this geopolitics, about ready to erupt. And we got an overpriced market. What more a recipe for disaster can you get than that? The cryptocurrency today, 30. You know what? I didn't do gold. Honest to gosh, I didn't do gold. I forgot yesterday entirely. 1979.80 for gold. And it's going down right now. Taking a look at cryptos today, Bitcoin is looking good. It's going straight up right now. It's 34,267. It's going straight up right now. Ethereum 1792 and XRP's at 59.8 cents and going up. Taking a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at 123 points up today. She's perched. It's like a crow perched on top of a pole. And you got a kid down below, and he's got a BB gun, and he's got it aimed at the crow. It's not hard to think about what's going to happen next. Down she comes. Like a stone. Okay. Taking a look at crude oil. 82.82. It's up $1.80 today. You know, eventually this market, the Dow Jones and all the other markets are going to take off at a certain point, though. But it's after they're forced to open up the floodgates of money again. And you'll know when that happens. Back to quantitative easing again. Back to zero interest rate policy again. Back to everything again. It's coming to support, and also having to support a war, which makes goods scarce because wars suck up resources like nothing else. And it's a law of supply and demand. If you suck up all of those resources and make them scarce, what happens to the price? It's spending money for nothing, as far as I'm concerned. It's worse than nothing. War. It's the biggest consumer. You want to talk about something that creates pollution? Something that creates carbon. You want to talk about it? War, there's nothing like it. So for all these environmentalists out there, do you know what war does to the earth? How it pollutes the earth? Nothing in this world pollutes the earth. I'm telling you, honest to goodness, they'll strain at a gnat and they'll swallow a camel. I mean, you go into the store and you're sitting there and you're going around the aisles. And okay, I need some cheese. Oh, okay, it's packed in plastic. Oh, I need some ham. Oh, it's packed in plastic. Oh, I need some eggs. Oh, they're in a plastic container. Oh, I need. You go all through the store and you got a cart. You got a wagon full of your shopping cart. Is just nothing but a big heap of plastic. I mean, if you were to take everything out of your shopping cart and remove it all from the plastic containers, you'd have a big cart full of plastic. But then you get to the register and they won't let you have a plastic bag to take it home. I mean, this kind of straining at a gnat sort of thing. And then they're out there and they start these wars off, and these wars, they burn enough carbon to supply the world with plastic for the next 1,000 years in like 5 days. None of it makes any sense. None of the things that are happening right now in the entire world make any sense. You know, it's all gone. It's all turning upside down. It used to be a Superman comic out there, you know, where they had this guy as Bizarro Superman. He lived in some sort of a mirror world or something, and he was like, I forget what he was called. He was like Superman, except everything was backwards in his world. Everything's going backwards in our world right now. Everything's turning upside down from normal. Bonds and rates today. We're looking at falling yields. The U.S. 10 years at 4.795, and the U.S. 30 years at 4.94. It's fell 8 basis points on the 10 year today, and 7.5 basis points on the 30 year. Taking a look at the U.S. dollar index today, and it's, let me get it in here and see, it's going sideways today at 106.85. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next article, and you guys have a great afternoon. Bye bye.